It is 2 a.m. in Washington, 8 a.m. in Barcelona, and 4 on a Tuesday afternoon here in Seoul. I'm Kim Hyun-ji, and this is ARIRANG, Korea's only global network. 6 days of reunions for war-separated families came to an end on this Tuesday at North Korea's Mount Kumgang Resort. Nearly 500 divided family members in the second round of reunions said their final, tearful farewells earlier this morning. And the 350 South Korean participants who took part will return to the South at around 5 p.m. Korea time. The reunion event was the first in more than 3 years. In the first round, 82 South Koreans who applied for the event reunited with their families in the north, while in the next round, 88 North Koreans met with their South Korean family members. 1 year ago today, President Park Geun-hye was sworn in as Korea's 11th president. She marked the occasion on this Tuesday with a televised address to the nation, in which she laid out the details of her 3-year economic innovation plan. Our presidential office correspondent Eoh Jin-joo has the details.
Reunification of the two Koreas will be a bonanza. In line with this comment made in her New Year's address, President Park announced plans to set up a presidential reunification preparation committee to seek out ways to bring about what she called a systematic and constructive reunification.
이곳에서 한반도의 통일을 준비하고 남북 간의 대화와 민간 교류의 폭을 넓혀갈 것입니다.
The committee will operate beyond the purview of the Unification Ministry, with experts and civic groups from various sectors, ranging from foreign affairs and security to the economy and culture, drawing up a specific blueprint for a unified Korea. In her 3-year economic innovation plan unveiled in Tuesday's address, President Park vowed to raise the nation's potential economic growth rate to above 4% and per capita income to $40,000 by the year 2017. She put forth 3 goals: creating an economy with strong fundamentals, making an innovative and dynamic economy, and establishing an economy that balances domestic demand and exports. The president said she will start with rooting out abnormal policies and wrong practices, especially in the public sector. President Park pledged to reduce and cap the debt ratio of public institutions at 200%, which is the upper limit for private companies to issue corporate bonds. The Korea Land and Housing Corporation, for example, which has debts of more than $128 billion, had a debt ratio of over 400% as of last year. And for an innovative economy,
이것을 포함해서 창업 벤처 생태계 조성을 위해 향후 3년간 4조 원 규모의 재정을 투입하겠습니다.
She also promised to increase investment in research and development to 5% of the country's GDP by 2017. Boosting domestic demand comes as an important part of her goal for a balanced economy. The president set a target of reducing the nation's household debt ratio by 5 percentage points by 2017 by handing out tax benefits and introducing fixed interest rates and level debt services for mortgage loans. Eoh Jin-joo, ARIRANG News.
Staying with the topic of President Park's 3-year economic innovation plan, the presidential office of Cheongwade has given the public a better understanding of how it aims to steer toward a 4% potential growth rate by the year 2017. And for an in-depth discussion of this topic, Dr. Kim In-chul, professor of economy at Seongkyungwan University, joins us in the studio. Hello, Dr. Kim.
Hello.
Welcome to the program.
Glad to be here.
First off, can you tell us briefly about the goals of this plan? I hear that the numbers 474 are very important for this. And what caused the presidential office to announce it today?
Okay, well, as you see, for the past year, since her inauguration, she's been quite successful in diplomacy, and she has become quite popular internationally as well as domestically. But in economic performance, she has not earned so much credit from the public as she's supposed to. Her economic team has often been criticized for their incompetence, whether it is true or not. In terms of low inflation and large current account surplus, Korean economy seems to be doing quite well. In terms of the deflation gap, However, the gap between the potential GDP and the actual GDP is getting wider, and the unemployment problem is getting more serious. So if this situation continues until, say, the end of her regime, she will not be the successful president. So she wants to invigorate the economy by drawing up a three-year innovation plan with the three objectives, what they call the 4-7-4 goals. The first 4 indicates the 4% potential growth rate, and the second 7 is the 70% the overall employment target, and the last 4 indicates the $40,000 per capita GDP.
All right. The president put a heavy emphasis on reforming highly indebted public sector organizations. They're often plagued by lax and unethical management practices. Can you tell us specifically what the government plans to do to make sure that these organizations reform?
Okay, well, in the previous regime, these organizations, public, national oil corporations and gas corporations and power corporations, they were really expanding their sizes, to explore the raw materials, including the crude oil, overseas. But now, the time has kind of gone, and it's time for them to trim down their sizes, and they've been often criticized for, unethical and the unethical management. So President now wants to reduce their foreign debt, external debt of these organizations. So she, reduced. She ordered sharply reduce their debt ratio, and she also ordered that these, government organizations and including other government-funded entities to adopt fair competition, so that they can increase their productive efficiency or the management efficiency. And she also wanted that the self-inspection team be set up, and systematically and periodically they are subject to get inspection. So to make sure that whether they're really doing the job they are supposed to do.
All right. And another thing is that the government says it will lift unnecessary regulations that tie the hands of businesses. What does the government have in mind specifically when they say this?
Okay, the government, it's the president, and then her government wants to lift up the unnecessary regulations as much as possible, especially in regulation, irrelevant regulation or outdated regulations in the business field. Because it is, she realizes that it is the businesses that contribute to the creation of more jobs for people, and it is the business people that pull the economy forward, to make the people enjoy economic prosperity as much as they do today. So it is, never too late to emphasize the importance of lifting up or eliminating the unnecessary regulations imposed on the businesses.
But some say that the government's this intention to deregulate kind of runs counter to President Park's flagship pledge of economic democratization. What do you think about that?
Well, still, she also, acknowledges the importance of fair competition. And while, supporting the business investment, still, she wants to see these, companies or firms exercise fair practices. So then, decision to lift up all unnecessary, irrational regulations does not necessarily mean that she took a step back from economic democratization.
Right, so she still is committed to promoting fair business practices. And President Park also stated in her speech that the government will push for balancing domestic demand and exports. What does this mean?
Well, in order to achieve a higher growth, policy-wise, the government needs to stimulate the economy through an increase in private consumption and increase in exports. But so far, I mean, up to this point, Korea has been relying more on the export activities. But now it is time for Korea to, balance the strategy in such a way that the private consumption needs to be stimulated. So more, policies will be executed to stimulate, private consumption. That's why the government wants to, reduce the debt burden of the households. The household debt is really, seriously, really at a high level.
Mm-hmm. So that kind of goes with the topic of an economy with strong fundamentals, I would have to say. Can you say a little bit more about what the government intends to do to make sure the Korean economy is one with strong fundamentals?
Well, frankly, country at this point lacks some, trust, mutual trust. So, the relationship between the small, medium-sized, firm and the large, firms needs to be improved based upon the mutual trust and the relationship between the government and the public, so that the relationship needs to be improved based upon the increased trust between the two. Then the efficiency is going to increase, and the potential growth is going to be strengthened. Because if we trust each other, if we believe in what we're saying or what they're saying, then they can go ahead and make more investment, and they can go ahead and make more consumption, so that the overall economy is going to stimulate it, and we can get closer to the potential growth potential.
Okay, so overall, what is your assessment of the president's 3-year economic innovation plan? Is it feasible?
Yeah, some people may be a critic about this 3-year innovation plan, but it does not really matter whether these 3 goals be fully achieved. At this point, the national leader, President Park, has to do something about it to get the economy moving, because the unemployment problem is really serious. So she is on the right track to increase the overall employment rate to the 70% level. So with these targets set up by the president or the government, the economic entities, consumers and producers know where to go. They get the sense of direction, and then they make plans in investment, and they a future investment, and also people can, or consumers can have more room, or can some liquidity to consume and spend to increase their consumption.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Kim, for joining us today. That was Professor Kim In-chul of Sungkyunkwan University on the Korean government's 3-year economic innovation plan. While the two Koreas were conducting inter-Korean family reunions, a North Korean military patrol ship crossed the maritime border in the West Sea 3 times between just before 11 p.m. Monday night and 3 a.m. Tuesday morning. South Korea's defense ministry said Tuesday that the North Korean vessel crossed back and forth beyond the northern limit line, the de facto maritime border between the two Koreas, on 3 different occasions, venturing as far as 3.5 kilometers into the zone. The South Korean military sent high-speed patrol boats to the area after warnings were ignored by the North, although there were no skirmishes. The boat turned back at around 2:30 this morning. The ministry says that it is highly likely that the North sent the boat to the area on purpose, since it ignored warnings and lingered for a long time. Another move to the right, the Japanese government is mulling over a plan to revise its 1993 apology to women forced into sexual slavery by the Japanese military during the Second World War. The suggestion comes from the nation's chief cabinet secretary, and as our Kim Ji-yeon reports, it's sure to add to the already tense environment in Northeast Asia.
In a move certain to draw fury from Korea and the rest of Asia, Japan says it's looking into revising its landmark apology for its wartime system of sex slavery. The Kyodo News Agency reported Monday that Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is mulling over revising the 1993 Kono statement after his chief cabinet secretary Yoshihide Suga said that evidence given by women forced to work in Japan's military brothels that forms the basis of the statement will be re-examined. In a recent poll by the Sankei Shimbun, 58.6% of respondents said Tokyo should revise the statement, while only 23.8% said it should not. In another move short to inflame regional tensions, Japan's foreign ministry posted a video Monday criticizing Korea for causing, quote, unnecessary confusion by pressing other countries to adopt the name EC when referring to the body of water between Korea and Japan. The video says Sea of Japan has been the internationally established name for the waters since the end of the 18th century. Tokyo's move appears aimed at curbing state legislation in the United States that would require the use of both names in school textbooks after Virginia passed such a bill. Korea considers the name Sea of Japan a legacy of Japan's imperialistic past as it came into use during Japan's colonial rule of Korea in the early 20th century. Kim Ji-yeon, ARIRANG News.
One of Korea's major union groups and the railway union are staging a massive rally around the nation this Tuesday to protest what they say is the government's move to eventually privatize a state-run rail operator. But train services have not been affected. Our Son Jang-in reports.
The Union of the Korea Railroad Corporation launched a scheduled one-day protest Tuesday, despite stern warnings from the government to anyone participating in the rally. The union is demanding the state-run railway operator withdraw punishments against unionists who took part in a strike last December, which was held to protest the government plan to create a subsidiary to run a high-speed train line. The union claims the plan was a precursor to the privatization of Korail. The rail operator has described Tuesday's protest as illegal and dispatched some 1,800 replacement workers so train services are not disrupted. The Korean Confederation of Trade Unions are joining the rally throughout the day to protest against the Park Geun-hye administration, claiming it has not kept its promise to democratize the country's economy and improve the welfare system. Some 200,000 KCTU members are also walking off the job on Tuesday and participating in rallies to be held simultaneously in 12 cities nationwide, including Seoul and Busan. Son Jang-in, ARIRANG News.
When Samsung unveils a new device, the world takes notice. And when the Korean firm shows off its latest smartphone, that interest is piqued even further. Well, that's exactly what Samsung has done at the Mobile World Congress, giving the public a first look at the highly anticipated Galaxy S5. Our Shin Se-min has the latest.
Samsung Electronics has unveiled the latest model in its widely popular Galaxy range of smartphones, but not only that. Samsung's new smartwatch and fitness wristband are also taking pride of the place at the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. The Galaxy S5, the Gear 2, and the Gear Fit are the latest offerings from Samsung and the clearest indication yet that the battleground for the smart world is shifting towards wearable devices. Equipped with a 16-megapixel camera, the Galaxy S5 comes with a larger display than its predecessor, clocking in at an impressive 5.1 inches. The ultra-saving mode has also improved the battery life. Users can now browse the internet for 10 hours on a single charge, and the download booster feature will help users download contents much faster. A new smartphone also adopts fingerprint screening, a feature that should make mobile transactions safer and easier. Not only that, users can even wash their Galaxy S5 with water, as it is not only waterproof but completely dust-resistant. Samsung also continues its push towards connected devices, as the Samsung Galaxy S5 and the Gear Fit allow users to track their heartbeat with a heart rate monitor to effectively manage its users' workouts, a first for the industry. Samsung's new devices will be launched globally in April. Shin Se-min, ARIRANG News.
Ukraine will name an acting prime minister and fill the remaining seats of a new unity government by Tuesday. This comes as Russia continues to step up its rhetoric against the new leadership headed by Alexander Turchinov. Our Kim Min-ji reports.
Ukraine's new interim president, Alexander Turchinov, expects lawmakers to vote Tuesday on a national unity government led by a prime minister that is favored and trusted by the people. The empty seats in government will likely be filled swiftly so officials can seek economic assistance to stave off default. Turchinov says a new government will be equipped with various tasks such as stopping the country's slide and creating new jobs, as well as returning to the European integration path. He also said Ukraine is willing to build relations with Russia in a new and fair partnership. While work on the interim government is underway in Ukraine, Russia is questioning the legitimacy of the opposition and is continuing to denounce the ousting of President Viktor Yanukovych. Ukraine issued an arrest warrant for Yanukovych on Monday on charges of mass murder of citizens during protests. Russia's Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev said Ukraine's interim authorities are the result of an armed mutiny. In the meantime, the U.S. continues to pressure Russia not to intervene in Ukraine. On Monday, Washington also said it was ready to provide financial assistance to Kiev. European officials are also in talks on sending financial support to the country. Ukraine says it needs an estimated $35 billion to survive the next 2 years. Ukraine could also have a new president by the summer after the nation's parliament decided to bump up the presidential election by almost a year to the end of May. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
The success of the Korean film industry has not gone unnoticed in Hollywood, with a number of movies having been remade with American audiences in mind. 아리랑's Hwang Ji-hye reports on the potential of Korean films and television series and the challenges that remain.
This lakeside path looks quite familiar. It's a scene from the 2006 American romantic drama Lake House, which was a remake of the Korean film 시월에. The publication rights of around 30 Korean films have been sold in Hollywood over the past 15 years, and some of them were remade, including classics like Old Boy, My Sassy Girl, and The Uninvited. Roy Lee, a well-known American film producer known for taking Asian films and remaking them for audiences in the United States, says he was surprised by the production values and storylines in Korean movies.
There were also original stories that I'd never seen before done in English. And so when I saw movies like My Wife is a Gangster or The Lake House, or it was called Il Mare at the time, I just thought those are movies I would want to see myself if they were in English.
The adaptations of Korean films, however, have yet to find widespread success in the U.S. market, as Americanized versions often end up being drained of the weirdness that made them so popular in Korea.
And industry sources say that writers and directors of the original Korean content should also participate in the remaking process in Hollywood to increase the chances of the new version being a success.
I think they have to share their passion and also about the whole movie insight, so that they understand fully, then they recreate, not remake.
And it's not just Korean films that are being eyed by Hollywood producers. Korean TV series are also getting attention. 9 have already been picked up by Fake Empire Productions, the company behind a number of hit shows like Gossip Girl and The OC.
Hollywood definitely looks to Korea as like a trendsetter in Asia, because a lot of the TV shows and movies that are popular in Korea are also popular in Japan and in China.
Roy Lee adds that as long as the Korean movie industry continues to take chances with new contents, it will have a marketplace worldwide. Hwang Ji-hye, ARIRANG News, Los Angeles.
The nation is continuing to experience the high levels of ultra-fine dust, and a fine dust advisory has been in effect since yesterday. But it seems like it's going to continue until tomorrow, when we're expected to see some rain. So until then, let's put ourselves together and wear a mask on our way out. Now, temperatures have gone up again, but make sure you are dressed warm for the mornings and nights, because there is a quite large temperature differences between the two. Now, for more details, let's move over to our satellite map. We have another sunny day nationwide. However, once again, due to the fine dust levels, it might seem foggy or smoggy. Now, going over to our readings, Seoul will top out at 13 in the afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Gwangju and Busan will get up to both at 15 degrees. Now down onto Jeju Island, it's going to be a cloudy day with a high of 15 degrees. Dokdo should peak up to 9, while Mankumgang tops out at 2. Well, that's all for Korea, and here's the look at the weather conditions around the world.
That's all from me for this hour, but stay tuned to Arirang. We have a lot more coming your way on Early Edition at 6.